Welcome to D&D Out Loud, a Patreon exclusive with Ben Riggs. Gamehole Con Seminar 2025. Controversial historian talks D&D financial data.
Thank you all very much for coming. I apologize for our slightly delayed big start. And back row, if I'm not loud enough, let me know. John, throw something at me if you can't hear me. All right. So what you're going to get is different than what is in the program. Originally, this was going to be, so here's where I am with my book. Here's what's going on with my research and what I'm learning about Dungeons and Dragons in the 21st century. Then, 6-ish weeks ago, a source sent me 18 years worth of Dungeons and Dragons sales data. And it was so much, I was like, I don't really have the time to crack through this right now. I'm gonna do it at Gamehole Con. Whatever this data reveals, I'm going to put it out at Gamehole Con because Alex is a great guy. This is a great convention, and I was like, let's give some added value to the Gamehole Con attendees. So, really, so I really saw this in the past 36 hours. Some of this I just saw this morning, and we're just going to go through the data together. I'll take some questions, but I have more questions, I think, than answers right now. But what you're going to see, I thought was astounding. In many ways, it's the story we already know, but now with fresh details. If you are not hugely fluent in Dungeons and Dragons sales, I want to just tell you what they've kind of looked like. You could probably broadly break them down into 3 eras of Dungeons and Dragons sales. So, first, there's the first peak of Dungeons and Dragons, where you have AD&D and BECMI selling more year after year after year, until there's a crash in, it's hard to see at the bottom there's a crash in 1984, where sales drop. And after that drop, you have this long, slow slide of Dungeons and Dragons sales, really from 1984 to 2014. And when you talk to the D&D team about like 2011, 2012, 2013, it suggests that they thought the slide was irreversible. The D&D 5e team talked about how they might be designing the last version of D&D. There were discussions with Fantasy Flight Games to license Dungeons and Dragons to Fantasy Flight because why bother anymore? Why keep making Dungeons and Dragons when it's not making any money? So this is to look at Dungeons and Dragons, BECMI sales essentially, and AD&D sales. The numbers here are like the basic D&D box set in blue, and if you add together the PHB and DMG, that's the red. And that is first edition only. This is with second edition added in. You can again see that there's this huge spike. You get another spike when second edition comes out, and then off it goes. It just trails down into kind of nothing, and then TSR is purchased by Wizards of the Coast. Please take a seat. So, if you're going to go a little further out, this is Sales of the Player's Handbook First Edition through 3.5. You will, of course, notice everyone sells less than the one before it. It's easy to look at this and think, this is a pet rock. These are D&D role-playing game only sales in North America from 2002 through 2013. So this is your third edition, fourth edition era. And third edition certainly represents a recovery from the terrible sales of fourth edition, from the terrible sales at the tail end of second edition, and both within the company and kind of the culture at large. Third edition is seen as this renaissance. It's bringing D&D back, and it does, but it does not break through to a wider culture. 3rd edition and 3.5 do not bring in tons of new players, and you'll notice sales still trended down. You get a spike in 2008 with the release of 4th edition, but then they just cratered. You'll hear a lot of arguing online about whether or not Paizo ever outsold Dungeons and Dragons. I'm optimistic that I'll get some Paizo sales numbers at some point, but the biggest piece of data, I think, in that argument is Wizards of the Coast only sold $4.1 million worth of Dungeons and Dragons books in 2013. If there was ever a year that Paizo could have sold more than D&D, it would be 2013. Like, that's very reasonable. I mean, you know, Brandon Sanderson has Kickstarters that make more than that, right? And again, as D&D sales drop and drop and drop, and each version sells less than the one before, it appears to be on this long, slow slide to death. Was it just some fad in the 70s and 80s, and the people who played it are dying or moving on to other things, and they're not being replaced at a rate that makes it profitable? Something like a pet rock. I certainly thought, for me, I thought the bottom was like 2009. That is when I saw local gaming stores closing. That is when I was like, I've got all my Delta Green books, I got all my White Wolf books, I got the 3rd edition core rules, I'm good. You know, I can play role-playing games until I die now, but, you know, it's going to be some sort of cottage industry where maybe once every 2 or 3 years someone puts a book up for ransom and you can get a PDF file, but I thought it was done. It was not. So this is the release of 5e. And so these numbers are now in millions of dollars on the left-hand side of your screen. Previously, it was in units sold, so I just wanted to note that change. And this number is only role-playing game books sold in North America between 2013 and 2014. So like no novels, no ebooks, no D&D Insider, just you're selling a role-playing game book to someone. And sales went from 4.1 million to 12.3 million. Amazing, right? Like, that's great. A tripling, wonderful growth. The D&D 5e team said they felt like justified. I heard a lot of stories about, you know, Gen Con in 2014, just signing books and feeling like, we did it. A thing that Mike Merles said to me was, he knew he could get the 3rd edition players that had gone to Paizo back. That was his #1 goal. Get those people back, and we're going to have a healthy business of D&D here at Wizards of the Coast. That was his goal. He sees this, and he's like, yeah, I achieved it, yay. But based on, I'm just going to show you those depressing graph charts one more time. Based on this, you know, you would certainly expect in 2015, sales are going to drop, because since 1984, any product that comes out does well. I shouldn't say any product that comes out does well. Any new edition that comes out does well. Then the next year you get a drop, and you get this kind of long, slow slide. But in 2015, something truly unusual happened, which is that. In 2015, sales numbers actually went up. And that certainly got people's attention in Wizards of the Coast. And just to give you all the good stuff, there are the numbers right through 2020. That 2020 number is an estimate. It is not a final number. So I do not have a final number for 2020, but that is what Wizards of the Coast thought D&D was going to do in 2020. And again, the numbers here on the left are in millions of dollars. So you went from $4.1 million in 2013 to, gosh, what is that, 50-something in 2019, 2020, and 2018. Which I would point out, like TSR in its best year made $38.4 million. And I think maybe 10 million of that was like a loan that they counted as gross profit. So it is easy to see right here that D&D in the 5th edition era had became bigger than it had ever been. Yes, John Peterson.
Question for you. So is this physical book sales or is this inclusive?
Thank you for asking that excellent question. So these are physical book sales in North America only. So this is, if you buy a book on Amazon, it's counted here. If you went to your friendly local gaming store, it's counted here. If you were at Barnes & Noble, it is counted here. Drive-through RPG is coming up. But I just want to say again, as someone who looks at a lot of this sales data, this is astounding. It is I would say only the second time that D&D has shown growth. There was that first period in the 70s and 80s, and then 2014 until, I don't know when, because again, my sales data, my good sales data ends in 2019, my speculative sales data ends in 2020. I am of the opinion that it has continued, even though I wrote a very long article about why I think this growth is going to stop 2 years ago. I think I was wrong. So, those are, again, just the core book sales. What about the other stuff that Wizard sells that could be lumped into the D&D brand? For a significant portion of its history, if you were going to make Dungeons & Dragons, you almost had to make something else to sell with it, because making Dungeons & Dragons itself was not super profitable. At TSR, it was the sales of novels that really helped keep things afloat. It was way cheaper to produce a novel than a box set for Dark Sun. You needed less staff, you needed less art, you needed less maps, etc., etc., etc. And they sold amazingly well. Oftentimes they sold in the hundreds of thousands of copies. When TSR was functioning well in the 80s and 90s, oftentimes it would be about 50-50 role-playing game sales, book sales. Again, I don't have any firm data for that, but that's what people told me again and again and again. So, if we look at the other D&D stuff Wizard sells, this is 2013. So again, the last year of 4th edition. Again, you can't see it. It says 2013 sales makeup at the bottom. At the top, D&D sales makeup 2013. They grossed $15.5 million selling D&D stuff in 2013. And I look at this and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Again, role-playing games are about a quarter of the business. The novels are bringing in about 36% of the math. The novels are bringing in about 36% of the business. There's still a ton of people playing D&D Insider, which is what you use to play 4th edition. I look at this and I'm like, this seems normal. Oh, miniatures are less than 1%. I look at this and I'm like, makes sense. Historically, this is totally what I would expect from D&D sales. Yes, sir?
So this is revenue, not profit?
This is gross sales.
Right.
So we're not subtracting.
Top line, not cost taken out of it.
There's no costs taken out of this yet. Profitability, I do not have anything.
You don't have any data about margin at all?
Only anecdotal evidence. Like for the 5th edition era, the Player's Handbook was hugely profitable for them after a while. Anything that would move more Player's Handbooks made them a ton of money. But beyond that, I couldn't tell you much because I'm not done doing my research yet. I haven't talked to everybody yet. So, but again, historically, I look at this and I'm like, makes sense from a historical point of view. This is 2019. And if you can't see, that big huge chunk is role-playing games. Actual physical role-playing game sales is this big chunk here. And just to be clear, Amazon plus Barnes & Noble plus your friendly local gaming store, physical copies of D&D stuff. What color is this? Sea blue, teal, whatever color this is. Drive-through RPG. You'll notice it's over 20%. Uh-oh, that's a lot of hands. Hang on 1 second. Give me 1 second. And D&D Insider, less than 1%. Novels, board games, e-novels, all incredibly small. And I want to tell you right now, it's not that the gross numbers for board games, novels, and ebooks stayed the same. in the 5th edition era until 2019, every single one of those categories dropped in revenue year over year over year. So it's not like the D&D role-playing game pie just got so huge that it made this look small. They are actually selling less of these things. I hope that maybe that answered a bunch of the questions. But any other question? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and D&D Beyond was still its own entity. That's
Yes,
why
D&D Beyond is not on this.
Exactly. I was just
D&D Beyond is not on this.
Yeah.
So, considering role-playing game books, are we talking exclusively rule books, or are we also including published adventures?
Published adventures as well.
Okay.
So anything, anything that had stats in it and was sold by Wizards of the Coast goes into the role-playing game section.
Okay.
Obviously, novels, ebooks, etc. That's all over here. Way in back.
Yeah, maybe jumping the gun.
Jump it.
So, looking at your timeline, do you have an overlay of the cultural zeitgeist jumps that happen with D&D being introduced more culturally, growth in market, organically?
You're jumping the gun a little bit.
Okay.
You're jumping the gun a little bit there. I have a few things to say about it. I have more questions than statements, but I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So give me 1 second, Mr. Alexander.
So kind of building on your question, you mentioned D&D Beyond owned by Fandom still at this point,
Yeah.
right? Other licensed things, like you have novels here, but I know WotC has been moving towards having like fully licensed novels. Is any of that income on here, or is this just stuff they were selling not
This
directly?
is just
but-
the stuff that they were selling at the time. One of the reasons I didn't include 2020 data in much of this is because my 2020 data was, again, speculative, and it included a bunch of licensing stuff. And I'm like, none of the other years included licensing stuff, and I don't know where that would be on these charts, because again, it should be somewhere, right? So my answer is, where is licensing in this? I don't really know, but hopefully I can find out and tell you next time. Sir?
Yeah, that's what I was going to point out. Was 2016 was the last time they actually published novels themselves.
Really?
Everything after that is all the external licenses.
Then this must be licensing stuff in 2019.
Because by that point, it's only Bob Salvatore selling the
Drid stuff?
the good stuff.
Is the drive-through number just their cut, or is it a total?
I'm sure that's just their cut. I'm sure it's not a total, but I look at this and you get 21% of 71.1 million. Drive-through RPG is making a ton of money selling D&D stuff. That's just clear. I couldn't tell you what their cut is or what their breakdown is, but I know that this number is what drive-through sends to them, not what drive-through grosses. Make sense?
Yep.
All right. Good. Any other questions? How am I doing on time? Oh, we're doing good.
I'm sure you can take all.
All right. And just to, so you can't see what's at the bottom left there, but it's a very small stack. So this is, if you're going to look at the sales of the role-playing game books, drive-through novels, and ebooks, 2013 to 2020. And again, you can just see that like drive-through gets bigger and bigger and bigger, which is really I think the point of this chart, how well drive-through is doing. If I were Wizards, I would kind of claw back those novel sales and get into the business of publishing novels again. For all the talk about moving D&D online, making video games, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I mean, obviously those things are hugely profitable, but there was a time when you could probably make tens of millions of dollars selling novels, and they passed it on to someone else. Like I would try and claw that back if I were them. And also drive-through, holy shit. Like those sales are remarkable. Now that there was the question of, well, to what degree is there a cultural wave, something in the zeitgeist, something in the water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I would first of all say, I think 5e is a very good version of the rules. I think the 5e team did really good work, and if you had a different rule set, I don't know how things would have gone. But this is Gen Con attendance, provided by Peter Atkinson. And you will notice, we have 2002 all the way over here on the left. We have 2019, then a gap, and then 2023, 2024 on the far right. You will notice that 2009, I think was the lowest. It looked like a dip to me, and then after 2009, up until we get to the physical capacity of Gen Con. But it starts in 2011, before D&D 5e ever comes out. Stranger Things debuts in 2016. D&D sales spike in 2017. Like that's where you go from, I forget how much it was, but like they get exponentially higher in 2017, and then even higher in 2018, which is where they get to around 50 million. Give me 1 second, please. So, to what degree did 5e ride an existing wave to these tremendous sales? I don't have any easy answers for that right now. I would speculate the following things. I think that tabletop role-playing games and Dungeons & Dragons solve a ton of 21st century problems. I think that it forces you to get together with people. It helps you make friends. If you're a little bit socially awkward, it gives you a kind of like paradigm to have a conversation with people. Jay Dragon said a couple days ago, game designers are people who look at a conversation and think it needs more rules. But if you are a little bit socially awkward, a conversation with more rules can sound amazing. People are getting married less, people are drinking less, people are going to parties less, people are having less kids. D&D can kind of help with all of those things. And give me 1 second. I also would point out, this is, again, I haven't gotten any numbers for this yet, but I know that they exist. One way to possibly read this data is, in the 1970s and early 1980s, D&D flooded a certain demographic. Let's just say nerdy white males of a certain age in the 70s and 80s. I am a nerd as well, so don't take umbrage at the term nerd, please. But that demographic falls into D&D and absolutely loves it. But then it doesn't seem to break out of that demographic. But my gosh, has it broken out of that demographic. When I look at people under 30, it might be like 60% women playing. And that's just anecdotal, but again, I teach at a school. Every woman under 30 is playing Dungeons & Dragons. D&D has gone from, in the past 15 years, because I've been teaching at the same school for 15 years, it has gone from like maybe I'll have 2 to 4 boys that are into D&D to like everyone is into D&D, and the people that aren't into it are the like unusual ones. It seems to have just become mass culture in a way. And if you're not, again, if you're a tween and you're not playing D&D, you kind of like to be playing D&D or another role-playing game. So I do not know the full answers. So it's possible to read the geek wave as geeky culture finally becoming something that answers the problems of women, people of color. You could read it that way. That it broke out of that. It's one demographic, and that is the geek wave. But again, I don't have strong evidence for that yet. And I do think that the bottom thing that you can't possibly read here says, look at conventions. Is growth continuing? Look at conventions. It certainly seems like conventions keep growing and growing and growing. Small conventions, big conventions seem to be capping out their attendance because there's just people want to keep coming, but there's nowhere to put them. So I have essentially no solid answers yet as to why this happened. But again, I think that this paints a pretty good picture of how it happened. I will try to answer your questions if you have any now. Great.
So does it seem like 5th edition didn't start this, but it came out at the right time to take advantage of something that you think maybe already started?
So let me click back on that. Here we go. So, the weird thing about 5th edition is that 2017 spike. So it's 2016, things are great. 2017, holy cow. 2018, holy shit. I have been, ever since I saw that 2017 spike, I've been like, what happen. Is it Stranger Things? Because it could be. Critical Role, pardon?
Season 2 came out.
Critical Role Season 2 came out in 2017. And again, I certainly think that streaming has a lot to do with this, making it easier to play a role-playing game. So maybe it was that Critical Role came out and just took off. Again, when I talk to the women in my school who play Dungeons and Dragons and I ask how you got into it, literally every single one starts with, well, I was listening to this actual play. Either a lot of them, is it the McElroy brothers? McElroy, thank you. It's a lot of the McElroy brothers, one or two Critical Role people, a couple Dimension 20 people, and I certainly think you cannot overstate the importance of that, but if you're asking cause and effect of 5e and the wave, again, ultimately, my short answer is I don't know. Hopefully I have a better answer when I finish writing my book. But if anybody else has an idea, let me know. Sir?
Something maybe to look into is also the rise of podcasters. That increased a lot in that same time period. And I know, I don't listen to that many podcasts, but I know at least Robert with Behind the Bastards talks about D&D a hell of a lot. And so I'm guessing some of that has to do with it too.
Yeah, sir.
We also had some celebrities coming out that they were geeks and playing D&D.
Yeah.
So it was now cool to play D&D. It was okay if you could be cool and still play D&D.
Well, and Wizards folk tell me a lot of stories about kind of seducing celebrities out of the closet. It's up to you how much significance you want to put on that. But Greg Tito, who was one of the public faces of D&D for a long time, he will tell a story about finding out that Deborah Ann Wall from True Blood and Daredevil was hugely into D&D. Hey, do you want to come up here and just hang out at the offices, see what we're doing? And the answer that he got at first was, D&D is so important to me that I do not want to kind of commercialize it. I don't want to bring it out of my basement because it's so vital to my existence, to my living, that it's the way that some people might talk about having pictures of their kids online seemed to be the way that she was talking about D&D in her life, which is fascinating, amazing, wonderful. And Greg Teo has, again, a story of kind of slowly convincing her to come out and start doing geeky stuff. I haven't talked to Deborah Ann Wall about it yet, but hey, I'm going to try. I'm sure she'll have a different story in some way, shape, or form. But the marketing staff certainly seems to want to tell a story where they get these people out of the closet. Again, I haven't confirmed with them yet. It's a very natural story to tell, though. But yeah, you're certainly right. I'm sure that's a factor. It doesn't hurt. But again, I'm in this very social historian place of how do you measure that? Other questions, thoughts, and so I'm going to say green shirt and then beret.
I was just reading Game Wizards. What's up now? And I was thinking to myself, in the early 80s, here you have a game where it's quite easy to end up as a group of elves trying to collaboratively solve a problem. It's a failure of imagination that we didn't get women involved in the beginning. It's like, this is not a masculine game if you look at it from a certain perspective. And I think, it's just, we finally took down the barriers and allowed people who should have been playing the whole time to come in and start.
I mean, I agree with you. Some of us wrote articles about it that apparently were controversial. So if you're interested in that, Google my name and controversy or something. But yeah, I agree with you, and I don't have a maybe it's a John question. I don't know. John, you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, probably they should have done that.
Just sir in the beret.
Okay. I had a related question, but I would like to jump in with my own comment, which is regarding Marx's question or comment. I think it would have been difficult for Uncle Gary to have made that change, as you have pointed out, and as anyone who reads through Appendix N will realize. If you look at the source material, that's not where the game is coming from. My related question is, when, you know, 5th edition, as you pointed out, has expanded in large part because it's gotten out of the nerdy white guy demographic. So, in your opinion, your research, whatever, to what extent was this a deliberate decision? What deliberate decisions did people at Liberty take or in different podcasts take that helped D&D break out of the base?
So I remember more of this from the Peter Atkinson era, that in 3rd edition he really wanted to try and diversify the representations of Dungeons and Dragons. I have not actually had conversations with anyone about that explicitly from the 5e era, but I'm certainly going to talk into my butt here and say, yeah, I think that they would say that that was intentional on their part. I'm trying to remember. Oh, John, go ahead.
I just gonna say, well, first of all, regarding the Appendix N and wellness, I'm sorry, I think they had enough imagination to understand human beings who play games. That, like, Ben was referring to, Gary's comments about women can stay away from war games and drills for all I care, damn right I'm a sexist. Like, we're not allowed to take a look for that. But more to the point, this obviously went back, at least to the 2nd edition era, where, there were controversies over representations on the covers of the Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide, like in the 80s and 90s, in which staff was pushing against this and marketing was pushing back and saying, no, you put a woman or a person of color on the cover of one of these things, they will sell worse than they would if we don't. And as evidence for this, they would have, look at this Life magazine, because they apparently got some figures from this. When they put a woman or person of color on the magazine, they got less sales, right? This was the level of argument that was being made to put this down. And this persisted until Wizards bought the company, right? Like this, right up until the second editions in the mid-90s, they were still having precisely these disputes, where even like art direction was rebelling against management on this. And so it wasn't until Peter solved this problem, and said, no. We're gonna have like a group of people on the cover, and they're not gonna all be white guys, right? That if he made any progress. But he did. Ben will tell you, there's the whole Red Dark problem. Yeah. So that even in the 3rd edition era, they still have this problem. Anyway.
I would say, beyond the brilliance that John just spat, which required me to write on my hand. Thank you. I'm going to leave that where it sits and move on because my instinct is I want to do more research. Who have I? I'm just going for people I haven't called on. I haven't called on you, right?
Thank you. So here's my question. During that period of 2010 to 2013, approximately, when things seem to be at their lowest, is where you already mentioned Paizo, that they were kind of surging during that time. And if you look at some of the other more well-known, even if their market share is quite small as compared to D&D, Dungeon Crawl Classics comes out during that time. 13th Age comes out during that time. Have you any data, or have you heard anecdotally that there was some other game, like, I don't know, Vampire the Masquerade or something that was surging during that time that might have helped to drive that?
So anecdotally, Justin Alexander.
I'll throw a comment in, and if you feel free to contradict me. But I mean, one of the key things about 2010 to 2013 is they basically weren't actually selling D&D anymore. They'd given up on 4th edition and they were playtesting 5th. But technically, they were playtesting 5th with no core rulebooks to sell for it. So that's going to significantly contribute to why sales go as low as they do, is when you just literally stop selling the game to a certain extent.
Very fair. But to your point, all the data I have seen, maybe not all, a lot of the data I've seen suggests that this rising tide carried other boats up as well. I don't think that there is any game, it's terrible to talk in absolutes, I don't think that there's any game I can think of right now that came close to D&D numbers. I'm going to guess Paizo sold, maybe 100,000, maybe 200,000 copies of Pathfinder 1st edition. Total guess on my part, I have no data supporting that. But when I look around, I'm like, that seems about right. Which is, plenty for the TTRPG subculture. It keeps Paizo alive. It's a great game, great company. But if you're asking, is there something else doing what D&D is doing? I would say no. And I would say, but is this good for everyone? Yes. I vividly remember Simon Rogers of Pelgrane Press talking about the release of 5th edition before it came out. And I remember Simon Rogers saying, and I hope they kick the doors down. I hope it does fantastically well, because Simon Rogers was convinced that if D&D does well, people will come and find Pelgrane Press, which makes fine games like Night's Black Agents, and one of the greatest campaigns of all time, the Dracula Dossier, written by Ken Hite, who's sitting over there.
Please, this is not about me.
And Justin, thank you for pointing out, hey, they stopped kind of making 4th edition in some of those years. One of the interesting stories I heard was that, again, to free up bandwidth to work on 5th, that's why they started putting out those 1st edition books and old stuff just kind of repackaged. They had a company scan the old books, but there were so many errors in them that Chris Perkins' full-time job became going through these old books and fixing the typos in them. And when he told me about it, he kind of twitched and cringed because he said it was a nightmare. Everyone else is having a great time designing 5th edition. Not that, he wrote one of the core books, so it's not like he didn't do anything. But when a lot of that was going on, that's what he was doing, and it sounded like hell. Mr. Hite.
Yeah, the thing that sort of surprised me is not the skyrocket in 2017, which we were all there for and noticed, but the lack of a bump in 2000 with 3rd edition, because we were all there and it seemed like it was a bigger spike than the numbers have it as. To what extent do you think the rapid adoption of the D20 license and the OGL sort of ate a bulge that should have been TSRs, should have been Wizards rather, back in the day? And do you have numbers for the sales of all D20 compatible products, D20 compatible scorebook-like things, something, even a guesstimate as to what sort of core book appetite for 3rd edition got swallowed up, not just by Paizo, but by the Paizo's precursors?
So my shortest answer is going to be, I don't know. So my understanding is that Wizards of the Coast accounting and sales tracking essentially started in 2002.
Nice working together.
Yeah. And that is why I'm very unlikely to get more than anecdotal data for 2000, 2001. And obviously that is when 3rd edition came out. I have 3rd edition sales numbers after that, and I've had people look at them and be like, no, you got to tack on another 100,000 copies here, and so there's debate about it. So it's possible that when we're looking at these early numbers, they could be a little bit better because I'm missing something. I do not have anything yet from other companies. Again, I'm kind of optimistic about getting it because it just seems to be important to the story and people seem generous with me. But yeah, the question of to what degree was, say, Green Ronin somehow cannibalizing sales of Wizards of the Coast, I don't have a firm answer, other than Wizards of the Coast would have believed that Green Ronin making adventures that were compatible with 3rd edition inspired people to go and buy the 3rd edition core.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tolerant for the idea at the time. Yeah. I'm wondering, did it work?
Yeah. My answer is, I don't know yet.
And since we don't actually have data for 2000, then maybe the lack of a bump is lack of data.
Yeah, it could be. You could argue either way. And I'm just going to say I don't know because I don't know. Cool. Great question.
The beginning of 2002 looks very much like the end of 2012. Right. So the trend kind of, you can see that there's maybe a bump ahead of that.
And I haven't called on you yet.
drive-through RPG, do you have that broken out by product that they sold? So like, I was pretty involved in the Adventures League locally here, and so I'm just wondering if like a lot of that is organized play material versus self-published versus some of the old.
Yeah, all I have is this is how much money drive-through RPG sent to Wizards. That's the only number that I have, and only in those years. So I couldn't tell you like what's DM's Guild and what's not. Have I called on you yet?
No.
Okay, go for it.
And I love this look back at the data. It's awesome. It's fascinating. Any thoughts on forward?
Going forward, I've learned not to talk about that. But I would say, I mean, man, if the OGL and the release of 2024 D&D didn't trip things up, in the 70s and 80s, D&D seemed to expand until it filled the demographic that it appealed to. And since it appeals to more demographics now, I don't know when you reach that saturation point. And I also think that like, even if Wizards is very sanguine about the 2024 D&D sales. I don't know, maybe like, one thing that I was told was that they recategorized a lot of the game books as merchandise instead of books because it reduces returns. But that also means that those sales will not be caught by BookScan. And again, you'll hear a lot of YouTubers being like, well, here are the BookScan numbers for 2024 D&D, and again, that's valid data. But if BookScan is not going to catch them because they're not merchandise, because Wizards does not want them to be so returnable, it might look like the sales are softer than they are. But also, again, when I go and talk to the women at my school that are under 30 and playing D&D, I think none of them have purchased the 2024 rules. All are just still going with the 2014 rules. I guess I would say this. I believe the practice of Dungeons & Dragons and tabletop role-playing games is continuing to flourish and grow. It would not surprise me, though, if the sales data seemed weaker, was weaker, because, hey, those 2014 books are still good.
Yeah, so as with many businesses, it sounds like the key is going to be new demographic channels. Like, that's how they're going to grow. So that'll be interesting to see how they go tap that market. And I think D&D Beyond and things like that are helping them for sure. All the virtual tabletops are helping them, but they got to do more. So.
Have I called on you yet?
No.
Great.
So I have two thoughts that I think would be interesting here. One, if you can plot some of the sales data against, say, the performance of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That to me, combined with the fall off of, to use a really broad term, the monoculture. Right? We saw a major fall off of what we consider the monoculture from 08 to, say, 2016, and I'm wondering if you'll see a trend on how you correlate it that shows this created space for tabletop RPGs to explode the way they did.
Yeah, like this is one of my
lives.
You've put your finger on a big question I have.
Yeah.
Like, how does I certainly believe the success of the Lord of the Rings movies contributed somehow to the long-term growth of Dungeons & Dragons. I think that Game of Thrones contributed in some way to the long-term growth of Dungeons & Dragons. I am currently struggling with how do I link those things? Are they linkable? I need to go talk to some, again, sociology professors or anthropology professors or something to see if there's something I can do to figure that out. Because I certainly would concur that, like, Marvel, certainly see, like, when that new Marvel role-playing game by Matt Forbeck has a new book come out, it shoots to the top of various Amazon lists, and I don't think that would have happened in 2007. But again, how do I link those things? I don't know yet. Great question.
And real quick follow on, if you don't mind. So I also follow the dirty cardboard side of Wizards. I am extremely concerned about the lessons they're learning there and how they're going to apply it to D&D. Because the title list was the soul of D&D, and I think that's going to come into play here pretty quick. I don't think they're learning the correct lessons with the success of Magic. So I think we're going to wind up in some weird places with D&D book probably either soon.
I just don't feel like I know enough of Magic to even say anything. So
I will chat with you about
I will remain silent. Sir in the back.
Have you considered the correlation between the founding of Gamehole Con and its growth?
To be honest, like here in Wisconsin, Gamehole Con, Gary Con, I am very fascinated in the growth of, I'm fascinated by the growth of both of those conventions. And yeah, I want to talk to Alex, Luke Gygax, Skip Williams about them because I think that, again, when you're talking about the publication of a product that is D&D and the practice of the playing of the game that is D&D, I think that conventions are a great way to measure the practice because it's, again, about what people are doing, not what they're buying. So I think it just gives me better, rounder, fuller data. So I'm very interested in that, actually. Sir in the bluish shirt in the back?
When you have your numbers for the attendance at Gen Con, do you also have numbers for the percentage of played games that are D&D or that is Paizo or that is...
No, but
separated at all?
Professor DM on YouTube has, I think it's Professor DM on YouTube that has been, like for the past few years, tracking that. So the data is out there, and I'm sure that, you know, Gen Con still has it, because why would you throw that data out? It seems so useful. But because you could just go to the Gen Con program and be like, D&D, and look at the number, you know, he's been keeping track of that, which is, you know, space bless him for it. So it's around. Okay, I'm coming around to people for the second time. So you, ma'am, and then Ken Height.
Kind of piggybacking on the cultural, again, part of this, something we may think about looking into is charting the actual representation itself. We talk about representation. You see D&D take a turn from being referenced as something that is negative connotation in mass culture to positive. I'm thinking like, again, Lord of the Rings, Big Bang Theory. Then you have every single TV series I know has a D&D episode. And generally, I will tell you, I got pulled into this by my husband because I didn't even know D&D existed. And so then you start seeing it everywhere. And so it feels like as you have this lull of representation go down to this is a weird thing to this is something to be celebrated and you have all this positive exposure to it.
There is a professor in California who's been tracking that. His name escapes me at the moment, but I am like, okay, I'll write that down too. Go talk to him because I think that'd be valuable. Mr. Height.
Yeah, I had a note that Jim Kitchen has also been tracking games played at various conventions, so you might want to talk to him.
Thank you.
And I had a question, which I don't even know the answer to. I don't, but I assume someone at Garrett could find out. What about remainders? Obviously TSR did everything except dump books in quarries. But is remaindered secondary market a big part of WotC's business model? Do they do it? And that might tell you on the back end, you know, something about popularity, and it would also obviously add to sales, though not to money received by WotC.
Yeah. My, again, immediate answer is I don't know, but I'll look into it. And obviously some D&D product did end up in those kind of stores in the past 5 years. I've heard a few stories about them, but they haven't fact-checked them yet, so I don't want to share them yet because they're spicy. But yeah, I think that remainders are a very valuable area to explore, so thank you for that. And gentleman in the back with the glasses and the beard.
Yes, so sales revenue is great. What about, is any of that converted to units? Because I've been playing this game since the 80s, and I've watched the cost of these goods go up and up and up and up and up. 10 units bought 20 years ago compared to 10 units bought today, there's a huge price difference there. So your revenue is going to look pretty handsome. But what are you looking at in actual units? Does any of this convert?
So I don't have unit sales for, yeah, like the latest leak was all in gross dollar sales. So I don't have any hard unit numbers. Again, if you look at, I think Stephen Glicker, if you look up Stephen Glicker on YouTube, he will go through BookScan and give BookScan numbers for a lot of the D&D 5e releases. Those will catch, they don't catch everything, but BookScan catches, I think, like 50% of the sales. That was the general number that I heard. So if you want to hear about D&D sales numbers, you can go look at that. But we are talking about Player's Handbook sales in the millions, which 5e is the first time that sales exceeded first edition numbers. Like I would have to go and dig into my computer to pull up how many first edition players' handbooks were sold, but it was also in the millions. So 5e is the first time that that number was supplanted, surmounted, gone above. I couldn't tell you the numbers off the top of my head. And so yeah, the shortest answer to your question again is I don't know yet. And Dave.
Two things real quick. There's an article out there that has numbers for the starter set.
Yeah, I saw.
Okay, good. You went found. All right.
Yeah.
And that's numbers, and there's like 300K in 2018 and
Yeah,
that in 2017.
I don't remember this. I don't want to say because I don't know.
Okay.
Hang on. Go, John. Go.
Oh, and that's the Bloomberg one, you mean?
I don't remember where I saw
It's Bloomberg.
Yeah, it only goes up like 2018 or 2019, but it does have, starter set.
Okay.
One other thing, there is another article out there where somebody from WotC spilled a little information about their internal surveys about where did you start with D&D. And I think it was the first time they said their survey showed it was streaming play primarily that was bringing people in.
I'll also go take a look because that'd be really interesting. And he said that WotC said that streaming play was bringing people in. Brandon?
Yes. Just a quick question about data and trends. Sorry. Have you ever looked into the release of large RPG games against the timeline for sales? Because like
not yet.
2008, Neverwinter Nights 2 dropped, Fable 2 dropped. There was a big tick up on your chart there. 2013, Neverwinter Online dropped. It didn't actually increase things, but it wasn't that popular. And then 2015, you had The Witcher 3 dropped, Path of Exile, Bloodborne, and all the numbers went up again. So I'm kind of wondering if there's some kind of correlation between Steam sale numbers that you can look up and your chart on physical book sales.
I don't know, but I'm interested. And someone else who had not asked a question had a hand up, and I was going to call on them and then end the conversation. Yes, sir.
So I was looking for, because I normally keep it on my phone. The two articles, it wasn't like a leak of the survey. Wizards actually went to some mainstream news sources. And back, I think, in like both 2018 and recently, said that their surveys were saying that streaming games is now the #1 way that people are finding D&D, and it's the first time it eclipsed friends and family in the whole history.
Mike Shea, why would you sit so far in the back?
I just
One of those articles I gave numbers.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming. Come on in to Chaosium, it's fine. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for listening. Buy my book if you don't have it, Slaying the Dragon. And I have a podcast and YouTube channel that's not as big as Mike's, but please check it out.